Hello and welcome to Firearm Freedom. This is going to be hopefully a helpful but maybe somewhat morbid video. This is going to be a video about things to do before you die with a large collection of firearms. And before we get this video started, I have no sponsors to this channel right now. How you can help me out is just by simply hitting that subscribe button. Commenting down below really does help as well. Lets the algorithms know that, hey, some people are liking this video. And also, of course, I have my B channel. We were at, this morning, 392 subs right now. When I started these ads for it, we were at like 200. So that is so cool to see. We are on our path to 1,000. Click that card up in the right-hand corner of your screen now. FF Lifestyle Adventure, awesome content over there. You're not going to want to miss it. I have worked on the gun line for a very long time, about a decade, and I have unfortunately seen wives coming in. Most of the time it's been wives. It's not necessarily, saying that it's always going to be a husband that dies before their wife, with a large collection of firearms or a paper that says, hey, here are the models that my significant other had, and they are very obviously distraught. They themselves don't know much of anything in regards to firearms. That's really commonly the case. It's very rare that two individuals in the relationship both love guns, and not only both love guns, but understand the intricacies and the ins and outs of how to sell them, where to sell them, and all of those other things. Unfortunately, they are left with essentially a really, really hard time. Large collections of firearms, we can justify to ourselves all that we want about the investment and the value that they have, but it ends up more often than not being quite the huge headache for whoever you're leaving them behind for. Now, I think us as gun owners, we hope that our children and everyone else in our family is going to love this hobby and want everything to do with these, and they're going to live and continue on for generations. But often that's not the case, and our significant others are just simply looking for financial return of the items, and your children might be looking for financial return of the items as well. NFA items, this is a huge one. If you have a large collection of suppressors and you are assuming your suppressors are going to be extremely high dollar items, used suppressors in any world are worthless. Even used suppressors from the 80s that are on Max or other transferable items, they are worthless. They really add no additional value. In fact, the only thing that you are adding with a large collection of suppressors to your loved ones after you pass away is quite the headache. Now, I've said before in many past videos that trusts in modern times are essentially worthless, and for the average person, that is the case. However, if you have, say, 15 suppressors, a trust may have benefited you or may benefit you, because then everyone that's on the trust just can simply grab up the items, use them, enjoy them, whatever. If you do not have a trust, you would have to have the executor of your estate Form 5 those suppressors, which in normal people terms just means the paperwork that you have to do to buy the suppressor, you have to do to transfer the suppressor from the estate, the executor of your will, to another individual. And this process is free. It does not cost $200. However, you have to do one of those every single item. So I would say that with suppressors, write down, hey, they are essentially worthless. Don't try to sell them, and just try to give them away to my friends and family on a Form 5 transfer. And what you can really do to help out your significant others before your passing is actually pre-fill out Form 5s if they're not in a trust for each one of those items, or at the very least highlight where that individual's information will go. contract an attorney quickly to help you fill out the Form 5s. But if you think about it, if you know how to do those, that might take you about an hour, 2 hours to figure out how many of those to fill out, who to fill them out to. Imagine how daunting that task would be. I've seen it firsthand for significant others that know nothing about the NFA. Explain the value of SBRs and SBSs. Are they of lesser value because of X, Y, or Z? They're new, it's just a regular AR, and if anything, the SBR is going to hurt the value. Explain to them how you might be able to remove it from the NFA, turn it into a pistol in the case of an SBR, not an SBS, and have an easier time selling it. These are all things to take into consideration and things to write out in an instruction manual. I have that in a binder with all of my stamps. I have the instruction sheet on the front. Here's what you want to do. Here's, Form 5s in the back of this or whatever. All of that is very helpful to have. And then ultimately, of course, if you have transferables, you need to discuss the value of those. Sounds really messed up, but I've seen it more times than I want to remember. Somebody, especially an elderly person, coming in with like 5 transferables or something to a specific shop. They have a value of hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the shop is offering them $500, and this person has no idea what they are losing out on. So again, very important to have this written out for NFA items. Similarly, the value of just normal firearms that you have. I would not recommend using any sort of cloud-based technology to save a detailed catalog of all of your firearms, obviously, but you can use things like Excel spreadsheets or even simply pen and paper to write about that item. Here's the serial number, here is the item that I have, here is the estimated value on True Gun value at this point in time. You could put a little note, hey, this is probably going to go up in value, or hey, this is probably going to go down in value. Here is the accessories that I have on it. Here is a very, very expensive optic called an ACOG. This ACOG is not worth $50 to the person that was supposedly a friend of mine, but is now offering you $50 for this item. And you can go down this list. It's going to be tedious. It's going to take a lot of time, but I promise you, your family will thank you for that. Having some sort of a list is very, very important to have so that everyone knows, okay, this is the amount that we're dealing with. You can bring that list printed into a shop, and that shop can look down the list. All right, what are we looking at? You can bring that list into an auction house and say, all right, we might have a pretty large estate here. It looks like there's a lot of high dollar items, and this is what they're looking to get for it. You can even put a total on the bottom. Discuss with the shop. Look, this is what they were very knowledgeable. This is what they put on the bottom for total value. What are we looking at? How much less than that are we looking? How much more? What's your percentage? And a lot of the time, people love keeping 2, 3, 4 items, but having an excessively large collection of firearms, not a lot of people want to take that on. You might have a lot of family members that live in a small apartment or whatever, would love to take it, but they just can't. I've seen that so many times that it's just like, oh my God, this I don't want any part in this. This is too much. I don't know anything about guns. These are cool, but I don't want to keep these forever. This is what you can do to help them out and just at the very least see what you have on paper. I'm so guilty of not doing this myself, not keeping up with it. I've had a lot of lists, not updated them, but recently this has really been something on my mind and something that I think is very, very important to do. Safes, and this can also help you while you're alive, of course. When we're looking at safes for your firearms, a lot of people have in mind, okay, I want one big, big safe, right? That's like, it's like 100 gun safe. You don't want that. You don't want a big safe in any way, shape, or form. The reason you don't want that is that big 1,000-pound safe, one, is not going to hold nearly as many firearms as it's advertised to hold. Two, when you get it delivered into your house, when you get all your buddies to drop it off in whatever garage or area of your home, that's where it's going to stay. When you move out of the house, that's where it's staying. And that, to me, has never made sense. What you want is a good, high quality, fireproof safe of the medium to possibly even small variety. It's a quarter of the price of the large safe, but what you want to go with is multiple small, medium safes. Fill each and every individual one of them up. Are they easier maybe to pick up and carry along? Yes, but you can anchor them, and you can also anchor them side by side, and you can also hide them around different areas of your home. Not only will this provide usually really good fire protection for a small amount of items rather than okay fire protection for a big bulky safe, but it will also be much more difficult to break into and steal. If somebody sees a large safe, only one, they have an approximate idea of time getting into that, and then they get everything. If they see 5 small to medium safes, they realize that now they're going to have to times all that work and labor and time by 5, okay? If they want to take them out of the house, okay, it's times 5 that they got to take them out of the house. It is far more daunting of a task when you see multiple safes. Furthermore, it ends up actually being about the same price. So you can spread them around, you can move them more easily. When you move homes, those safes are coming with you. For your family members, you can easily organize those safes. Military surplus, ARs, AKs, specific genre, long range, NFA. You can organize those safes, and that's really, really easy for your significant others in your passing to say, okay, that's the NFA safe. They said very clearly, don't open that, don't go in that unless I am Form 5ing those or I am on the trust because of possible legal issues with the ATF. So just small, multiple safes, very important. Finally, we can talk about, of course, insurance for your large items. I have seen so many times people come in with a house fire and they have lost everything. Not only have they lost precious things like their family pets, their home, you're going through so much emotional trauma with that. Oh, and on top of that, none of your firearms were insured or in any sort of a fireproof safe, and you lost all value, that they're just gone. Yes, a lot of homeowners insurance has a very small amount set aside for firearms or collectibles or valuables, but you really want to look into specific firearm insurance or collectible insurance. And this is just going to be in your back pocket while you're alive or after you pass, that you are covered in that horrible, horrible event. There are so many other things to be distraught about in that situation, but don't let this be the icing on the cake that you lost all of this and you're never getting it back as far as value goes. Do this stuff now for your family. We don't want to think about this. We don't want to think about how short life is, but you never know when you are going to punch that time card. And that is very important, to be right with all the things you got to be right with, but also for just the things that we are getting into here, the high value items. Make sure that your family's not getting screwed after you leave with a very, very big headache. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, stay tuned for more great content coming soon.